ghostly apparitions, UFOs and aliens, and mysterious creatures lurking in hidden depths around us. These are the mysteries which baffle, yet pique our curiosity. Will we ever prove their existence? Welcome to Paranormal Experienced Radio. Listen as your host and seasoned researcher Kat Hobson discovers new evidence, bringing us closer to the truth with informative guest interviews, the latest paranormal news, investigation advice, and equipment tips. Kat is a lead investigator with SCARE, located in Birmingham, Alabama, and feels that her gifts were given to aid individuals in distress in what should be their safe environments. Now, here is your host of Paranormal Experienced Radio, Kat Hobson, on WGOG Digital Broadcasting.
Good evening and welcome to Paranormal Experience. I am your host, Kat Hobson. I am so glad that you're here tonight because we have got such a special show. I am first, though, wanting to express my care and concern for the homes, and I just really hope that everything is going so much better. Anthony and Dina, we're thinking about you. Prayers to you, and I know things are frightening. And I am also wanting to say to my friends that always laugh at us about how we drive in the snow, that you shouldn't do that because now you've got it. So everybody, I hope you're safe. I hope you're someplace warm. I hope that your cities open up again soon. And oh my gosh, I can't even imagine some of the temperatures that I'm seeing. I don't know how you do it. My hat's off to you because y'all are tougher than I am. And with that said, I have Andrew Brewer with me tonight, the rock and roll psychic. He's a clairvoyant. He's an astrologer. He is an Akashic reader. And we're going to have some discussion on that because I know a lot of people have come to me asking about information for that, especially since it was on Ancient Aliens last week. So we're going to cover some of that. But Andy is one of the top 50 psychics in the world, one of the top 100 lightworkers in the world, one of the top 30 psychics in the U.S. And just this past year, he was named Men of the Year and Male Lightworker of the Year from a list of over 17,000 submitted names of practitioners from over 85 countries. I'm pretty much knocked out by that. Number 2, best male psychic in the U.S. Number 2, best male medium in the U.S. And I can vouch for this. Number 3, best metaphysical teacher in the U.S. Andy, I'm going to run out of time if I go through all these. Welcome to Paranormal Experience.
Kat, thank you so much for inviting me. It's always fun to hang out with you. It's always those are pretty much popularity contests, but I like them, so I write them down. So that's good. Thank you.
Well, it sounds pretty amazing, though, and you know it may be a popularity contest, but you're doing stuff to get your name out there. You're pretty much my go-to when it comes to, I wonder what the take is on this. And I go, and there you are telling me. So
that's good. Thank you. I mean, it's a mutual admiration. It runs both directions, so thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. And, you know, the Akashic thing, I mean, that's where I spent a lot of my time because, you know, when I was young, I was just confused, right? I mean, I was just confused, and I would see things, and I didn't know what they meant, and I tried to understand it, and none of it made sense to me. And I had this kind of vague notion, because certain things would have like a reaction to it. You may have had this too. There's probably a lot of people have had this. There's certain places, or like for me, it was like Victorian houses and the lamps and the furniture. I had this sort of deja vu thing. And so I go, I wonder if it's possible that there's such a thing as reincarnation. I wonder if there, because I had a girlfriend at the time back in the 1970s who was really into it. And to me, in the 1970s, living in Ohio, it wasn't something you talked about too much, but she was really into it. And her mom went to psychics in Miami, Florida. And so it's kind of odd that I had, Holly as a girlfriend. And I went to California when I was in my 20s, and I started taking classes on past life regression, and I was just like instantly good at it. And from that point on, that was 1979. So for the last 38 years, I've just keep trying to figure it out. And if you do something for 38 years, eventually you start to kind of get a handle on it, so.
Not everyone.
Well, I think anybody, if they really applied themselves for something that was like a hobby to them or a real passion to them, if they studied it for 35 to 40 years, they would get pretty good at it. And so, for me, I know you've probably seen some of these photo things I do. I keep trying to find, who was I and what was I and who was he and what was she, and so the long story only sort of long, that along the way, I've gotten better and better and better at having these pictures come to me and finding ways to map the pictures towards something that may have happened. So for me, it's not enough to say, oh, you lived on a farm in 1800 or whatever. I mean, I want to know specifically as much as possible the details. And on top of that, if possible, and this is truly a needle in a haystack, try to do like Google searches and things to try to find people that actually match this. And for celebrities, sometimes it's easier to find them. And but for me, I just keep looking and looking and looking. And then if I find somebody and they match the story elements, and they just, after 1,000 years of looking for them, I find a particular person that might fit it, and then the pictures are like twins, then it's on. And so that's kind of how this process has worked for me. And I think anybody, honestly, Kat, if you were as obsessed as me and you did it, you would figure it out too.
Well, you are. I mean, that's very important to you. And I've seen what you've come up with, and it's very, very surprising because I was not sure how much stock I put in that initially. And I have a friend whose child was looking through books of military planes with his dad, and they came to one. I don't even know how old he was, but he was very young. And he pointed to a particular one and said, "That's the plane I flew." And Matt was like, "Excuse me? That's the one you like?" He said, "No, that's the one I flew. When I flew planes." And it was on, and this was actually on that, there was a program about children with past lives, and that's what they were on because they were able to document his experience so strongly. Kind of like what you're doing with yours.
Yeah, I mean, I think those cases, you're probably talking about James Leiniger, who was a Navy pilot. No,
this is actually a boy that lives in North Carolina.
Oh, really? Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And he's only now coming out of high school.
I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, I was like that too when I was a little boy. I had images, and this was the 1950s, so I didn't really talk about it. And if I had, no one would have really, paid much attention to me.
Right.
Ian Stevenson, there was a guy by the name of Ian Stevenson who was a psychologist, and he was an academic, and he taught at the University of Virginia. And the man that invented Xerox, if he didn't invent the Xerox company, he had, he was one of the somebody that had a big stake in Xerox, went around to universities like in the late 50s and early 60s and said, I'm interested in studying reincarnation, and I will endow a chair at your university if you will find I'll give you the money to study this, which probably most people didn't want to do.
Right.
Well, Ian Stevenson was at the University of Virginia, I want to say the Department of Psychiatry, and he was a very well-known academic, kind of like Brian Weiss might be now. And he took it on, and what Dr. Stevenson did was he went around and he tried to document stories like of children that said, I remember when I lived in this other village and you're not my mommy. And so what Dr. Stevenson would do is he would go, primarily most of these were in India and places like that had a culture that sort of accepted, past lives. And Dr. Stevenson would go and he would interview them, and he was very meticulous in his record keeping. And, I wrote this book a couple of years ago called Cases with Anomalous States, and I stole that term from Dr. Stevenson. So a cases with anomalous states, one of my theories, is if reincarnation is not crazy enough, is that I believe that it's possible that you may live more than one at a time. So there could be two cats right now instead of just you. I mean, there could be.
I don't think the world could take that, Andy.
I think it would just be a better world. Actually, that's my own editorial on that. But so what Dr. Stevenson is, sometimes he would interview these little boys and girls and wherever, and they were born in 1949, for example, and little Sridhar, the person they were before, didn't die until 1950. Well, that confused him, and so what he came up with was something called what he would call them cases with anomalous states. There was an overlap. So, so I guess I'm rambling here a little bit, but I was super fascinated by the idea that there might be a past life, and I never, in my wildest dreams, ever wanted to do this as a career. I just wanted you to tell me, yes, you lived in a past life, and this is what you did. Now you can go do it again. Thanks, thanks for showing up. Go get a job, go buy a house, have a good time. We'll see you later. That's really what I expected, and it's not the way it played out. But, so I guess I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. But when I met this guy, I went to San Francisco, and I went in theory to do something else, and ended up, because I was there, I ended up, that was like a big hotbed of metaphysics in the 1970s in San Francisco. And I went to a psychic fair, and I was looking for somebody that did past lives. And I went this big psychic fair in the Cow Palace where the San Francisco, back when they were still the San Francisco Warriors, used to play basketball. And I found this guy, and I said, I have this thing, and I see, like when I'm in like a Victorian house, it's sort of weird. And he goes, oh yeah, but in your Victorian era, you were a woman and you were sort of a handful. I'm like, pardon me, excuse me, what? Hello? And then he said, yeah, and your life's going to be really hard. I thought, dude, this is not how I intended this conversation to roll. And he said a lot of things, really interesting things. And one of the things he said, you'll do what we do and you'll be famous. I go, I mean, I didn't really go, son, you're on crack. But I mean, that was because this was a much older man than me. And I thought, you're insane. I don't know what you're doing. This is crazy to me. And his wife came and said, oh yeah, you're going to do this and you're going to blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you people are, tripping. But that's kind of how it worked out. And after a while, I think you kind of get into a rhythm with it. So much of intuition and, clairvoyance, psychic ability, however you want to look at it, so much of that's about trusting yourself and really kind of getting out of your way. And you probably know this too, Kat. A lot of it is that we get taught, well, you can't do that, or Jesus won't like you if you do that, or, that's impossible, whatever. Just like you can't be an artist, you'll starve to death. It's the same kind of logic, right?
It is.
And so you get these you get these anchors in your mind that tell you that, well, that type of thinking is invalid, or, even worse than that, maybe it's evil or whatever. And so much of being a psychic is really just about trusting yourself and being relaxed.
That's so hard, though.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a while,
It's so difficult because you have to work that muscle.
Yeah, but I mean, the beauty of it is you can get it, though.
Yeah, but the confidence thing, I was just having that conversation with someone when I was at St. Albans Sanatorium up in Virginia recently, and he had just come out of the closet as a psychic and was doing readings. He had just done his first psychic fair. And we were talking, and he was like, why don't you trust yourself? I said, I just don't. I'm so concerned that I'm going to say something and somebody's going to make a decision based on what I said, and then their life's going to blow up, right? I mean, it's funny that that's what bothers me the most. It's not that I'm not going to be accurate. It's that I'm going to have a negative effect on someone because, that can happen.
Yeah, I mean, you have to take responsibility, but at the same time, you have to recognize, I think, Kat, you have to recognize that everyone has a level of responsibility to themselves. And so, there's no 98% accurate psychic. There's no 88% accurate psychic. That's just mythology to sell a psychic, right? It's an interpretation. I don't know all. I'm pretty good at sort of seeing how things flow, but I don't, I'm not going to get everything, and I don't pretend to, and I don't advertise myself that way. I think that's misleading. But there is a sense, I think, that you can understand. Part of it's understanding yourself, so that takes a while. But you understand what people are about. I'm pretty good at knowing when people lie to themselves. And that in and of itself is really a big piece of information. And so in knowing when people are sort of distorting their own truth, living out somebody else's mythology of what they're supposed to be, if you can tap into that and sort of dialogue with that person and help them have clarity about what they're really about and what's driving their behavior and what they really want to do, and give them permission, and help them to give themselves permission to do that, then the chance of them making big changes in their lives, it goes up quite dramatically. But, confidence, I think, you can't fake it, but if you just are truthful, I think eventually you sort of get to a point where you believe in yourself and you try to be nice and you try to do the best you can. And I have one of my strengths, I think, is that I do have a pretty good level of self-confidence just in general.
But
I mean, I think, and I'm not trying
I'm giving you grief. I know that
I know you're giving me a hard time. I know that. But I think that's a positive, right?
It is a positive.
And it helped me when I was an actor. I was a corporate executive. I was a whole bunch of different things over the years. But as a psychic, you have to trust that A, you're going to give your best effort. B, you're going to try to connect with that person. And C, you're going to hopefully in that exchange do something that's helpful for them. You can't fix everything. You're going to make mistakes. You just have to hope that done in the proper spirit, with the proper kind of mindset, space within your heart, that good things are going to happen more than bad things. And for you, you just have to believe that, because that's where you come from anyway. So the probability of something good coming out of it is much higher than the likelihood of something bad, in my opinion.
That's my take on it too, because I try to just radiate positivity where I can. But when we come back, I want to go on some with this confidence thing, because you present as one of the most confident men I know, and you actually are. But we are coming up on a station break, and this one is 3 minutes, so we will catch y'all on the flip side.
positively has to be the best. WGOG DB Clearwater. Let's talk.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has delivered a one-of-a-kind reading experience, covering everything from psychics, UFOs, paranormal investigations, and more. To subscribe, visit fatemag.com or call 828-702-3032. That's 828-702-3032. Subscribe and find your true reports of the strange and unknown at fatemag.com.
The Haunted Voices series by author Claire Jim. Not your average romance novels, the Haunted Voices series intertwines romance with ghost stories. Like an addiction counselor and a security guard struggle to free a little girl and her father. Two lost spirits trapped inside an abandoned mental hospital and spirits of the heart. Want more? Then read about a hunky professor in a tweed jacket, a cheeky goth chick, and a pipe-smoking, book-hurling ghost. Put them all together in an antiquated library and, well, you get the book Phantom Traces. Or read about a psychic interior designer who reluctantly agrees to renovate a sexy investor's abandoned hotel in Hearts Unlocked, winner of the 2016 New York Book Festival. The Haunted Voices series by Claire Jim. Buy wherever books are sold or purchase at clairejim.com. Nothing feels better than a good cleanse to wash away the day. If you think that refreshes you, then experience the ultimate cleanse with Soaps by Susan. Cleansing Spiritually LLC uses only pharmaceutical-grade essential oils, all-natural shea butter, coconut oils, and vitamin E, and tailored toward the ultimate cleanse. Susan uses a skin-safe fragrance with an aroma that brings a smile to your face and takes you to that happy place within. Each bar is handcrafted and custom to order, so it not only cleanses the soul, but also matches your room's decor. Cleansing Spiritually soap makes great gifts, or you can just indulge yourself for a spiritual cleansing you'll never forget. You want some now, don't you? We thought so. Contact Susan Todd to place your custom order at facebook.com/spiritually. Don't settle for clean. Get spiritually clean at facebook.com/spiritually. WGOG DB Clearwater. Let's talk.
She's 3 minutes after the hour, and you are listening to Paranormal Experienced. I'm Kat Hobson, your host, and I am joined by Andrew Brewer, who is the rock and roll psychic and just really a very special man. If you have not been familiar with him, you need to hit the website andrew-brewer.com, and you can learn more than you ever knew was possible about Andrew and what he does. You can also book a reading with him there. But Andrew, we are back, and we were discussing the confidence thing relevant to exercising that psychic muscle, as you will, and developing faith in yourself as you give messages to give to people.
Well, I mean, I think, it works on anything. I was in Los Angeles. I mean, the irony was that when I first sort of started being psychic, I thought, these are movies. I'm like seeing movies. I should be an actor. So then I went and studied acting for a while at the University of Kansas. And then I went straight to California, but I went to San Francisco. Just shows you what little I really know. But I went not.
You went to San Francisco to be an actor?
Yeah, I went. But the reason that was like Jesus tricking me to go to have all this stuff as a psychic, right? Later, I went to Los Angeles. This was 7, 8 years ago. I went to Los Angeles in theory to do a reality TV show as a psychic, and ended up that didn't happen, and I ended up being a film actor. All right, so this is the lead in to this thing with confidence. So I'm in Los Angeles, and I need money, so I went on Craigslist and I put in psychic, like in gigs, because in LA is a big town. I figured there's probably like a party or something. They need a tarot reader, they need whatever, and they have a thing, 3 listings for psychics, and they're all for actors. They want somebody to play a psychic in a film. So I did, what I literally did was I took 3 or 4 cell phone pictures, put them on a PowerPoint slide, made a little collage of my photos. I wrote an email, and within 5 minutes, I swear, 5 minutes max, I get a phone call. And I go, hi.
Get out of town.
No, I swear this is true. So 5 minutes, if that, I get from sending this email, I get this phone call. And I talked to this guy, and I talked to him for like 20 minutes. He goes, great, I'm going to New York. I'm working on this film. We're going to shoot in March. I'll see you there. I go, excuse me? You don't want to look at me? He goes, oh, no, I like your energy. I like your photos. You're good. I'm like, okay. So I go do this movie. And it turns out I have a lead part in this movie. I'm in the IMDb. I've got a lead in this movie.
I know. I saw your IMDb.
So that's from this thing. That's how I got that movie. So I thought, that was fun. I wonder if I could get another one. So I sent one out. Next day, I'm in a film. Next day. So.
Only you.
So what I noticed was that pretty much every day I was getting film offers. I didn't have an agent. I was doing them through Craigslist or whatever. And I would send my picture. Remember, I'm a 55-year-old man, all right, with no theater credits, no acting credits, at least the first week, all right? So I would go and I would get these parts. They were small parts, and they didn't pay anything. I made $50, got to eat all day, but that was still in the movie. So I would go, and I would show up in these films. Like I saw Terrell Owens is up to be in the Football Hall of Fame. I was actually in a movie with him, his very first movie. But so I would go, and I would show up, and I go, oh, man, this is so much fun. How long? How many movies have you been in? Oh, I've been in like 7. I go, how long have you been doing it? 5 years. I'd be like, whoa, dude. And I go, well, I've been doing it for 2 weeks, and I've been in 6. I mean, this was literally the truth, right? So when I would tell people how many movies, I was turning down movies every week. And then I started getting offers to read for like bigger parts. It makes no sense. It really sounds like I'm making it up, but it's actually a true story.
No, because I know you, and I know you don't make things up. And I also know you and know that this is totally the way that your world would flow.
So evidently I must look like a Russian assassin, because I started getting offers all the time to be like Russian mafia. And so I would study Bullwinkle and try to get a Russian accent. I'm really not a very good actor. That's the downside to it. So I would try to go, I would try to do, if I had a Russian accent, I would still be in Los Angeles. So I would go, and I kept getting these movies, and I would tell people to go, that's what you're doing is impossible. I realized that. And everyone I talked to said, if you don't give up everything else you have in your life and focus on being an actor, you're an idiot. I didn't really want to stay in Los Angeles. I just kind of went there temporarily. I didn't like LA. I wanted to get out of LA. And so I went to this guy. I'd been in one of his films, and I was in another one of his films, and he was a producer. And I said to him, I said, Manzi, I've been thinking about, really kind of devoting myself more to being an actor. Do you think I could do this? He goes, and this ties in to our conversation earlier. What he said to me is, you are the most self-confident person I've ever seen in my life. And I said, you could do anything. Everybody knows if you show up and they tell you where to go, you'll do it. You won't cause trouble. And so, if I went to a film and I'm in your movie, I'm an actor, dude. If I'm in your film,
Yes.
By definition, I'm a film actor, right? So I don't have any second thoughts. I don't worry that I'm old. I don't worry that I'm whatever. I'm in your movie. You're paying me. I was in a movie 2 days ago. So I'm a film actor. And so I believe that. Same thing, I was a corporate executive. I went from making nothing to a whole bunch in a very short period of time. And I'd been a psychic on television in my 30s, had no business training, didn't graduate from college. And I started getting bigger and bigger jobs. And so much of that was, well, you hired me, by God, I guess I'm good at this.
There you go.
So the same kind of thing as a psychic, you know? So you go, well, you know, you're here. You must have some faith that I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to reward your faith, and I'm just going to believe in what I get, and we're going to have a conversation. So the moral of this story, when it comes to psychics, or to being a corporate executive, or being an athlete, or being an actor, or whatever that is that if you, like a creative writer, the reason people have writer's blocks or any kind of creative block or fear of public speaking is that they have a voice in their head that's telling them that they're not good enough, that they're not worthy of praise, they're not worthy. They've been taught as children, more likely than not, but somewhere along the way they've been taught that they don't deserve good things. And so their fear of being rejected paralyzes them. And that's why they are, they have creative blocks. That's why they're timid. That's why they may be hesitant. I mean, there's a lot of pressure, I think, when you're a psychic. There's a sense you really want to help people. You know that most people that come are coming because they're in a situation in which they really
need help. Yes, they're seeking help.
So you have to take that seriously. So there's a certain element of pressure associated with that. But if you believe in yourself and you relate to that person, you truly care about that person, you do the best that you can, there's no reason to limit yourself. There's no reason to feel that you're inadequate to do that. And as you do it more and more, you get into a rhythm. You get into a positive feedback loop, right? So I did it before. They said really good things about me. I said something. It happened. Oh my God. I said something else. It happened. Whoa. And so then eventually what happens with that is that you begin to build a case to yourself, I think, that, okay.
Because that's the person that needs the case.
Right. So, so you build a case to yourself that, okay, maybe there's some validity to this. And that didn't happen for me like the first day. I mean, it took a long time. I mean, it was an evolutionary process. I mean, I'm 62 years old, so I've had time to, work up to it. But that's really all there is to it. You allow yourself the space to make a mistake. You allow yourself the space to forgive yourself. If you're making an effort, you're trying, you're going to take the feedback, you're going to refine it, you're going to keep trying to do better. You come from a good heart, you come from a space in which you're fairly calm, then good things are likely to happen. And that, it's progressive. You get better and better and better. And before long, then you're the number 5, psychic in the world and all that stuff. So, I mean, it's weird, but that's kind of how it happens. I did this. It's crazy. No, I was going to say, I did this TV thing. I was on television, like as soon as I started. It was weird. And, so you just have to believe that, if you're in a good space, good things will happen.
Well, that's kind of where I've been. But who have put the most doubt in my mind are other people who are self-proclaimed psychics.
You got to tune them out. Tune them out. If they're putting doubt in your mind, then there's something. So I'm going to flip this a bit.
Okay.
I believe that you should honor people as they pursue whatever it is they're pursuing.
Right.
I ain't all that, and So there's no reason for me to say to someone else that they can't do it. I might say, well, here's some of the things you might kind of work on. But you're really nice. You're polite. You're intelligent. You've been doing these. You've been in this universe for a while. You've been around it. I'm a pretty good judge of character. I get a good sense with you. There's no reason why you can't do it. And for other people, we kind of have to look at what's the mindset of the people giving you that speech. So if you look at
well, it was petty. I mean, it was really bizarre because it was someone who called themselves my friend, right? And they wanted to do time together, do things together and stuff like that. And I was all about that. And we did a little conversation online one time, and it was kind of fun. So I just said, well, do you do cold readings? And she said, well, yeah, I can read you right now. Well, she knew me, I thought. And it was just completely not me. Nothing about it was me. And I was kind of like, if you think that, why would you want to be friends with me? Right? And it was devastating. Excuse me. It was devastating. I could not believe that someone that called themselves my friend and wanted to spend time with me, they thought that I was not honorable to my husband. Right? And I was so grossly offended by that because I am a smitten kitten and very happy in my marriage. And this person was a smitten kitten and very happy in her marriage. And I was like, well, if you think that, why would you want me around your husband? This is weird, just so weird. And so I lost confidence because she was a television psychic. She had a television show. She did things. Health reasons were the only reason she quit. She's got a huge following of people that still come to her for readings. And so I'm sitting there thinking, well, apparently all these people that do this are full of crap, right? Because I knew it wasn't true. I was just there were several different levels that affected me on. And I just kind of got so disheartened because I thought, I don't think that I can be serious about this if I don't believe people are really doing it. And then I met people who do it, the other people who really do it, and it was a big difference.
Well, I mean, everything you're saying is totally legitimate, and I'm going to give you my opinion. I spend a lot of my life sort of undoing what other people have said to people that have made them feel nervous about themselves or nervous about their futures. I try to find the unicorn and the glitter in every rainbow, right? It's not always there, but I try to find it, and I try to frame things in a way that's sort of is moving people forward. The biggest difference between someone who is starting out as a psychic and someone who is more practiced and sort of more is further along the path, so to speak. And I think it's one of the real complications with being a psychic is that it's very easy when you see someone, if they remind you of somebody that you knew, to start thinking about the person that they remind you of and blend them together. Okay, you remind me of so-and-so, and I knew her in 3rd grade, or I went out with her when I was in 10th grade, or whatever. And then you lose sight of the person that you're actually talking to. And at that point, you begin to project because you're having an emotional response to the person that they're reminiscent of. You've lost your objectivity. Neutrality is the absolute bedrock foundation for any work as a psychic, you have to be neutral. So if you have a preset agenda, the potential for you to go sideways is pretty strong, right? So there may have been things that this woman was dealing with within herself that she was projecting onto you, or you are reminding her of someone else and she's not able to sort out who's who. Those are the most likely reasons for that. But no matter what the backstory might be for what's driving her behavior, ultimately, I mean, you have to say, okay, if I know within myself that this information is invalid,
right?
I'm not different because this person has projected this picture of me. What it's really reflective of is, if we want to look at it, the inadequacy of that particular person to do their job, right? So it's not on me, it's really on them. And so what I'd like to kind of throw out to you is to not discount yourself,
yeah.
You know, and just say, well, you know, stuff happens. Maybe she's having a bad day or whatever. There could be a lot of things go into it. Jealousy. Could be a lot of things that might be going on behind the scenes here. And it's, you know, when you know people, I think sometimes it's more complicated because you do have these other emotions that may potentially sort of bleed into it. But ultimately, you know, as a psychic, it's about staying neutral. And neutrality,
neutrality is tough.
I mean, it is tough, but I mean, again, it's a skill, right? It's a skill.
It is a skill.
And so it's like confidence. You know, after a while, you get to where no one's there all the time. You know, I try to be there. Again, I ain't all that. You know, I do the best that I can. And most of the time, I'm pretty good about being able to stay in that space. But it's also something that's happened for me. I know we got a break here in a second. Something's happened for me, you know, over time, right? It's something you practice. And a lot of that is that I'm older, you know, the thing about you're older now, you don't really care so much. You don't pay attention to what people say. All those things are true. I mean, those are wives' tales, but they're true. You know,
they are true.
You know, I'm not so worried about whether you like my shoes or whatever. You know, I'm not caught up in that game in the same way as a 62-year-old that I might have been as a 22-year-old. So there's a difference there.
Or even a 60-year-old.
Yeah, even, you know, every year, you know, you get like, okay, that's all right now. I got my Social Security. I got my little apartment now. I'm just sitting back. You know,
well, I'll tell you that I just turned 56 in November, and I'm still all about the shoes.
Well, you know, I'm just using that as an analogy. You know,
I know,
it's funny
I'm giving
because
you grief.
I actually kind of like shoes too. When I was a corporate executive, had all these like fancy Italian shoes and stuff. I was like a GQ kind of executive. It's weird, different life.
Totally see that happening though. But you know, I appreciate that because I was so. That's kind of where my fear of shattering someone came in, because I was very upset when that occurred. And I had no idea where it came from. And all I could think of, like you brought up, was projection. And, you know, but I don't think that she's that kind of person. I think that she's a very loving and caring wife, and she's never done anything to cause me to question that. But I was just kind of, and that's what I've always been afraid of causing that reaction in someone else. I don't want to make someone else feel the way that made me feel. And so I stepped back from that, and I do hear our music. So we are going to be back in 2 minutes, and we're going to step this up a notch. So we'll catch you on the flip.
Of course, we didn't invent great sound. We perfected it. WGOG Digital Broadcasting. Let's talk. Haunted, a psychic story by author and radio host Ariel Grace. This is not your average book of hauntings. Haunted, a psychic story is written from a psychic perspective and contains true stories and some handy tips. Written in 3 parts, Haunted, a Psychic Story contains chilling adventures, advice from the archangels, and helpful tips used by Ariel Grace to clear haunted homes around the globe. Haunted, a Psychic Story is available on Amazon, or you can download straight to your Kindle. Haunted, a Psychic Story by Ariel Grace. Get your copy today. For station identification. It's the little cinder block building on the north side of town with the tower behind it. WGOG DB Let's talk. We know you like listening to our live programs, but did you know the station had a chat room? Chatting is a great way to meet new people and share ideas, in addition to interacting with the program hosts. Entering the live chat room is simple. You can log in through Facebook, Twitter, as a guest. Don't forget to try our new registration feature and never miss another post. Some chat features include free audio and video chats with other chatters. Upload files from your computer or smartphone, or just chat from your smartphone or tablet while listening to your favorite programs. WGOG DB Station Chat Room. Don't just listen to the live show, be a part of it. Links can be found on all station websites or Facebook fan pages. See you there.
Minutes after the hour here on Paranormal Experienced, I'm Kat, your host, and I'm joined by Andrew Brewer, who is just wonderful. I hope that if you've missed any of this, you go hit those archives, because he's something else. And Andy, we were talking about when you said when you started being psychic earlier in the show, and I had someone who, she had been on the show and we were talking later. I saw her online and she had made a comment about people, you're either psychic or you're not. You don't become psychic. And I was like, au contraire. I think people do, because they something happens to step up their sensitivity, or they become aware of it. They, like you said, you were seeing movies. I do that. But how did you become psychic?
Well, I think you do sort of have it or you don't have it. But the problem with that is that you may not be aware of it, or it may be so far buried in the attic that you can't get to it. So for most people, there are some people that I think they're just, some people can't sing, some people can't, certain things they're just not good at. And some people, there's a definite, some people have more of it than others. But what happens is that culturally, you take people who have families or religions or, communities that give them a message, and so that just gets buried, right? It's just buried. And so the issue is one of how do you dig it back out? And once you dig it back out, you don't know what it is, you don't know what to do with it, you don't know how to use it, I've had this weird thing, what the heck is it? What do I do with it? Where do I plug it in?
Where do I plug it in? Yes.
Right. So much of it, when I talk about training psychics, you don't teach someone to be psychic, just like you don't really teach them to be a creative writer. You can show them this is a sentence, this is a semicolon. But it's more about giving them a way to let go of the psychological barriers that they have between them and doing it, what I call decluttering. So it's about developing confidence. It's about, there are techniques, right? I mean, there are techniques that you can use, visualization techniques. There are lots of things you can do that get you started, but ultimately it's about getting out of your way. And I think that most people have an instinct. I think that everyone can develop it. I think that most people would be surprised at how much they could develop it. Like say, you know, if you spend 38 years doing it, you'll get pretty good at it. But I do think there is, some people have more of it right from the get-go than others. But that doesn't mean that most people don't have quite a bit more than they think they do, nor does it mean that most people can't do some amazing things, but they have to be willing to make mistakes. Most people, if they make a mistake, they're over it. You know, oh my God, I've just quit. Okay, well that's, you know, if I did that, I wouldn't be here. You know, you have to be willing. You have to be willing to kind of fall down a few times and get back up and, you know, refine the process. So much of it's about refining your way of looking at yourself, and also the way in the people that you pay attention to. You have to find ways of tuning some people out and allowing other voices, you know, tuning the volume up on them and turning the volume down on somebody else. You know, it's it's a process. You know, astrology was a big part of my world. We're going to talk about astrology, I think, after. And you know, I mean, like, I think I can do things that other people probably can't do so easily. But then there's things that other people do that I don't do. You know, I mean, like, there's things as a psychic, I go, wow, dude, how'd you do that? That's really amazing. You know, like, I don't get names. Like, when people get, you know, this is Jessica, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. How do you do that? You know, so everybody has their own thing, right? They have their strengths. I'm really good at the things I'm really good at and not so good at the other things. And so I have to hope that people are happy with the things that I'm good at, and that's what they're really interested in, and, you know, they can let the other stuff go.
Yeah. Kim in chat says that's how you learn.
Absolutely. And it's not just being a psychic. It's how you learn as an artist, how you learn, you know, at anything, how you learn your job, how you learn a trade, you know. Absolutely. How you learn to be a parent, you know? Being a parent.
Oh my gosh, that's the hardest job on the planet, as you know.
It's a good job, though.
It's got a lot of perks. Job. Best job, the hardest job.
Got a lot of perks.
Yes, it does.
Not a lot of vacation time, though.
No, not a bit. That's a good thing. Until they're grown and gone, and then you have way too much vacation time.
Yeah, it's you know, it's when I was in college, I worked in a daycare center. I always joke the most effective birth control for young guys working in a daycare center, you know,
no doubt.
Like, oh my God, that's not, whoa. But yeah, it's fun. Being a parent's fun.
And we were saying, because, you know, it is a tough thing when they're grown-ups, but we were talking about people becoming psychic, you becoming a psychic, you training people to become a psychic or to develop their skills that they already have. That's more the case.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not so much developing the skills as helping people give themselves permission to go look for them.
Yes.
So I don't think I really can. I mean, I can give you clues about things that I did. You can try them. If they work for you, great. If not, you know, I hate it for you. This is what I did. You know, try something else. I mean, that's kind of the way I look at it. But what I am pretty good at is helping people give themselves permission to go do what matters to them. Right. So if you care about it, if you don't care about being a psychic, you don't have to be, because, you know, your next door neighbor did it, and that's great. You know, if you're not interested in it, no worries.
Not really a club, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
But if you really want to learn about it and it's really a passion for you, you'll get good at it. You'll find things. You will, you know, you'll get there. And it may not be a straight line. It may take longer than you'd like it to take. It may be sort of strange along the way. But if you care about it, like anything else, if you care about being a painter, or you care about being a dancer or an actor, if you care about it, you'll find a way to make it happen. You'll find a way to get better at it. You'll go seek out the things that you think will help you expand.
Absolutely.
If you're taught that it's not legit for you to care about what you care about, which is a cultural thing, then you'll shut it down. So I think that the way that you help a young psychic or a young artist or a young anything, even a not so young, is that you say, it's okay for you to really want to do whatever it is you want to do. You're not hurting anybody as long as you come from a place of kindness and you come from a space of enthusiasm, then do it, Give yourself permission to do it. That's the big hurdle, I think, Kat, is that most people are afraid to they're afraid to be disappointed, and I get it. They're afraid. I've come close to having some very big things happen, and they didn't. And you can get jaded, like, what's the point? But you just have to appreciate that I must have done something to even gotten close. And so, I just continue to move forward the best you can,
Works for me. And, it's so funny because I know that we're going to be going to break in a couple of moments, but you said at the very beginning that things are, people disapprove, so-and-so disapproves, Jesus would disapprove. And Bible Belt, I'm from Alabama. That's huge. You're from the South.
Well, I'm from a Southern family. I'm the Yankee in a clan of non-Yankees. So that's the way to look at that. So when I would get on the phone talking to my grandparents, people go, "Where are you from? Are you from Georgia?" I go, "No, I'm from Ohio." Well, I've lost some of my Southern accent over the years, but I can pick it up pretty fast. And you have that, like my mother. My mother just died, this past year, but my mother never believed that I could do what I did, and she was pretty intuitive herself.
Right.
She always thought that I just told people what they wanted to hear. I was on television and national TV for a couple of years back in the 90s. I did one of those $3.99 a minute infomercials. I was on with Eric Estrada, do you remember him? And Jenny Lee Harrison. Mm-hmm. And so I did one of those things, like a Dionne Warwick thing I did with Sabrina Kincaid. And I'm on TV and watching myself on TV, and they're just like, "Oh, whatever." You just have to. The Southern thing, I think, is an issue, but it doesn't. There are magical, creative people in the South, just like there are anywhere else. But yeah, I think that some people don't embrace this, and if you come from that as a family, as you and I both have, I think it complicates the process a little bit. It's a little more angst on the front end. Yeah,
a lot of angst. But I had a grandmother that was very open to it, and a grandmother that would roll over if she knew what I was doing. And she's actually in my house, so I'm careful with that. But I just think it's fascinating. And when we come back, we are going to hit the astrology side. And we had a question from Kim who wanted to know if you have any, or do you recommend books on this? And I gave her your Andrew-Brewer.com website.
Oh, sure. We'll do that when we get back.
Absolutely. And I am just so excited because I don't do astrology. So I'm so excited to learn from you. And we will be back on the flip side. This is going to be a 5-minute break, and this is the news. I hope there's good stuff out there for you to hear. See you in 5.
Real people and not pre-recorded and regurgitated radio. WGOG. DB Clearwater. Let's talk.
Snow, sleet, and ice bearing down on the East Coast. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Millions of people in the path of a major winter storm expected to pound parts of New England with more than a foot of snow, and places that have rarely seen snow are covered in it. Fox's Steve Rappaport has more live.
Lisa, the storm did a number on the southeast today, dumping 5 inches on Charleston, South Carolina. Governor Henry McMaster asking residents to look out for each other.
Be sure to check on your senior citizens, your elderly neighbors, or anyone you think might be at risk.
About 3 inches fell in Savannah, Georgia, and Tallahassee, Florida got a rare dusting. Boston is bracing for a big hit tomorrow. Mayor Marty Walsh says a quick cleanup is vital.
Friday night and Saturday, we're going to have very cold weather, below zero, so it's important for us that we get this snow off of the ground as best we can.
The New York City area could see about 6 inches of snow. Lisa?
Steve, the White House firing back at former strategist Steve Bannon.
I think furious, disgusted would probably certainly fit when you make such outrageous claims and completely false claims against the president, his administration, and his family.
Spokeswoman Sarah Sanders. Earlier today, Bannon was quoted in an upcoming book saying the president never expected to win the election and that the First Lady cried. President Trump, in a statement, said when Bannon was fired, he lost his mind. President Trump dissolving the Voter Fraud Commission.
The Commission on Election Integrity was formed after President Trump claimed millions of illegal votes were cast in the 2016 election. Despite statements from election officials from both parties, there was no evidence of that. Several states refused to comply with requests from the commission and challenged the investigation in court. Rather than engage in endless legal battles at taxpayer expense, a White House statement says the commission has been dissolved and the Department of Homeland Security has been asked to determine a next course of action.
Fox's Sharon Halford on Capitol Hill. Fox News, fair and balanced.
Are you hiring? Do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? With ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to 100 plus job sites with just one click. Then their powerful technology efficiently matches the right people to your job better than anyone else. That's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them. In fact, 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate through the site within 1 day. No juggling emails or calls to your office. Simply screen, rate, and manage candidates all in one place with ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use dashboard. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, our listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right. Free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/newscast. That's ZipRecruiter.com/newscast. One more time to try it for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/newscast.
The leader of Lebanon's Iranian-backed Hezbollah group says President Trump's hopes that protests in Iran will lead to regime change will be dashed, along with the hopes of the Israelis and Saudis. This is Iranian leaders claim there are thousands of pro-government protesters on the street.
Iran is responding to widespread anti-government protests by launching demonstrations of its own, as thousands march in support of the regime. The Trump administration is backing the protesters. The president tweeted he has such respect for the people of Iran as they try to take back their corrupt government. And he says you'll see great support from the United States at the appropriate time. State Department officials say they're monitoring the protests and stand ready to prepare additional sanctions if Iran cracks down violently. United States Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, is calling on an emergency meeting of the UN Security and Human Rights Councils, saying the UN must speak out as the people of Iran are crying out for freedom. At the State Department, Rich Edson, Fox News.
Another sign of thawing relations between North and South Korea. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has reopened a key cross-border communication channel with South Korea. The mother of a Kansas University basketball player lashing out at her son's critics.
Nicole Player took to Twitter Tuesday night to defend her son, Billy Preston, the 5-star Kansas recruit, still sidelined by an investigation into a recent on-campus car accident. Player tweeting, "I'm sick of watching people bash my child, but if he suited up tomorrow, he'd be the next coming of Jesus." Jesus Christ to you guys. Enough is enough. Adding, be empathetic or just be quiet until the NCAA does what they have to do. That raises questions of the NCAA's involvement in the accident investigation after Kansas head coach Bill Self said in November that the school was looking into a clearer financial picture of Preston's car accident. Matt Napolitano, Fox News.
The cold snap, good for New Year's Eve TV ratings. More than 25 million people tuned in to watch Ryan Seacrest ring in 2018 in frigid Times Square. Lisa Lacera, Fox News Radio.
Others say it. We prove it. WGOG Digital Broadcasting. Let's talk.
Minutes after the hour, and you are listening to Paranormal Experience Radio. I am Kat Hobson, your host. I am fortunate enough tonight to be joined by Andrew Brewer, who is my favorite psychic. I mean, hands down, the man is a unicorn. He's special. He's brilliant. He is all about the knowledge that he brings to the table. He is just a darn nice guy, too. I mean, one of my favorites. So welcome back, Andrew.
You're so sweet. Thank you very much. That's very sweet of you. Thank you.
It is
again,
what it
mutual
is.
admiration, both directions. Thank you, Kat.
Yeah.
I thought about, the question before the break. What I'm going to do is give you and if you want my book, if you just go to my website and there's like a contact, if you send me an email, I'll just send you a PDF of my book too, on reincarnation. But there are a lot of really good writers, people who have a lot of insight into the past life process. I'm really good friends with Tara Sutphin, and I think Tara Sutphin, I love, Tara's work. Her name is Tarasutphen, and her ex-husband Dick Sutphin is also a good resource. Tasha Fife is a friend of mine. She has a lot of really good books. Linda Backman. I actually met a woman long ago, and her books were kind of got me started back in the 70s. She died a long time ago. But Helen Wambaugh is a good resource. Morris Netherton is also a good resource. Of course, is Brian Weiss. And there have been books that have been written about people who have past life experiences. I read a book. I don't know if you read this, Kat, and I can't think of the title offhand. I'm sorry, but it was about this little boy who maybe is a reincarnation of Lou Gehrig. It's a really interesting book.
I did read that.
And that was really well done. And, I kind of feel sorry for the little boy in a lot of ways. It's got to be kind of tough for him, to be going to kindergarten and people, are you Lou Gehrig? But, it is what it is. And I've read different books like that I think are really powerful. But, so there are different kinds of takes on the experience itself, and then there are sort of takes on the philosophy behind it. I've written a lot about sort of how I think reincarnation works. I've written a lot. I've got another book probably coming out before too long on reincarnation. And like say, my book Cases with Anomalous States, if you go to my website, which is andrew-brewer.com, and just go to the contact and send me an email and say, hey, I heard you on Kat's radio show. You said you send me your book. Email me and I'll send it to you. But so I want to talk a little bit about astrology and reincarnation, and we're going to play with your astrology here in a second too. I'm just going to do it like right on the spot. But the way astrology works, so there's a branch of astrology called synastry. And so synastry is a comparison of two charts. So like if you and your husband, we would compare the charts. So like me, even when I was a teenager, I'd be like, hi, when's your birthday? I go home. Even like 19, I go, oh, wow, So what I would do, the reason I would do this is that I was looking for commonalities, matches between my what's called the natal chart, which is, just think of it like when you're born, the obstetrician has a giant camera and he or she takes a picture where all the planets are. So all the planets, when you're born, they have like a zip code, they have a location. And so we can map those on a big circle, and that's really all astrology is. It says, like my sun is at 17 degrees Aquarius. I was born right before a full moon, so my moon's at 13 Leo, and I got the planets. My Mars is in Aries, my Venus is in Capricorn, are all spread around this wheel. And each of those planets have a specific degree measure. So there's a circle, it's got 360 degrees. There are 12 signs of the zodiac. Each of those 12 signs has 30 degrees. So every planet has a specific location. My Jupiter's at 22 Cancer. Somebody else's Jupiter is someplace else. So we not only know that Jupiter's in Cancer, we know it's at 22 Cancer, and that 22 is very important. So what we're looking at are harmonic relationships between people, because the closer the math is, the closer the 22s are, the more intense. So it's like they match up, and the closer they are to an exact match, it revs up the intensity level, and it revs up the level of attraction and the level of connection. So when you're looking at doing a synastry chart between people in terms of like potential business partners, potential romantic partners, that's how you do it. You compare the two charts. Well, when you're looking at matching past lives, like I found a bunch of people that I think might have been my past life, as well as other people. The first one I ever did was Buddy Holly. And
yes.
So Buddy Holly and Brian Adams, and you do the astrology and do the pictures and the whole thing. So what should happen is that if there's any truth, if there's any validity to the sense that romantic partners should have a simpatico tightness between their birth charts, the same thing should happen between your current life and a past life. So for me, when I look at potential past life matches, the first off is the stories have to match, which is, again, needle in a haystack. Then once you've done that, the next thing is, if you find a picture of them, there should be a commonality between the physicality. I'm going to explain in just a second why I believe that's should be the case. Everybody has a theory. I'm going to give you my theory. Okay. But the third piece of that is the astrology. So if the stories don't match, well, there's nothing to find. If the photos don't have a very strong physical commonality, just like, you two must be brother and sister, or, you can tell you're a full-blooded Manus, that kind of thing, right? So you should have that. But then if the astrology doesn't go, I throw them out. The astrology should match.
That's interesting.
So I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of why I think that when you have a past life, you should sort of look the same. So I hope I'm not being boring. I'm trying to...
No, I'm fascinated.
Okay.
And I'm sure if I am, I'm sure my listeners are. So.
All right. So if there is such a thing as reincarnation, we have to say, what the heck reincarnates, and how does it do it, right? So there are mechanistic pieces to that. So what is it that reincarnates? What I believe, we could say it's the soul, the spirit. Those are terms, but what does that mean? I believe that what reincarnates, what the commonality across lifetimes is, there's an emotional template. There's a certain kind of style about how you do things, how you process information, the way you interact with the world that's sort of consistent. The situations may be different, but that basic kind of like, you're sort of, every time you show up, there's this kind of a same kind of vibe. That's what reincarnates. So how does it reincarnate, right? What's the vehicle, the means of transmission? To me, what happens is that it's a confluence. I'm getting into kind of an esoteric kind of explanation. I actually wrote about this in my book. But what happens is there's a confluence between the astrology, the genetics, and what I call astrogenetics. So there is So when we look at a string of DNA, people talk sometimes about junk DNA. Well, that's just DNA. It's obviously not junk. It's just nobody's figured out what it's for. What I believe happens is that the DNA reincarnates, but it also matches, because you got the sperm and you got the egg and they get together. We give that speech, right? But so you have the genetics of the mother and father, and then you have this common type that you bring with you. And so I think I'm attracted to situations that are going to be reflective of how I can interact again like what I'm used to. My belief in who I am also influences the way I present myself and influences the way I look. And I'm going to be attracted to a genetics that's going to match what I'm used to. But what I bring is going to interact with the genetics of the mom and dad. So they don't have to be identical twins, although I found some that pretty much are identical twins. Right. But they should be like, oh, you can tell you're a Manus. You can tell you're a Hughes. You can tell you're a Brewer. I'm going down my family tree here. And you should be able to see that.
Well, you can tell that with the race car driver.
Oh, that's freaky. I mean, that really is. That
is a freak of nature thing. And the military guy.
Yeah, those nobody knows what we're talking about. But but if you go look through the blog, you'll go, dude, that's some weird stuff. So that's how the genetics works, and that's why I think that when you look at past lives, you're going to find a common physicality. So it's like you share certain elements of the same DNA. So you may not be twins, but you're going to go, oh yeah, you can tell you're a Manus. Now, with the astrology is interesting in that astrology gives us an evolutionary seed. It's a blueprint. So when you look at astrology, what you're really looking at are predispositions, ways of processing, and there's an evolutionary, seed within the individual, and astrology is one of the means through which we can begin to outline the way in which the seed is going to come to bloom. The spatial relationships between planets. So if your Neptune and your Venus are 47 degrees apart, we're going to build a case, hypothetically, that when you're 47 years old, through doing progressions in astrology, that you're going to have some sort of external event that's going to clarify the interrelationship between Venus and Neptune, based on where Venus and Neptune are initially in your chart, the signs, what they, how they interact with other planets in the chart. We have an idea of what that's likely to be, but the Venus-Neptune sort of pop quiz, if you will, or graduation date is likely to happen in a significant way when you're 47 years old. And so we can begin to see within astrology what that evolutionary process is likely to look like, as well as to build a timeline for what that evolutionary process is likely to look like. So, and I realize I'm just kind of jumping around here. I'm trying to be, like Speedy Gonzalez with this.
Well, I think you're doing a great job. We've got 2 minutes until we go to break. But all right.
So when we come back, what we're going to do is that I want you to give me your birthday, and I want you to wait until we come back, because we're going to do it live right then. But when you think about reincarnation and astrology, you begin to look for patterns, and those patterns are things that are going to repeat. The external situations are likely to be different. You're going to be tested in different ways. You're going to be given opportunities to grow in different ways. But the basic who you are is going to kind of be consistent across lifetimes. Now, that's a theory. As a psychic, I make lots of predictions. The economy, stock market, politics, whatever. A lot of them come true. Not all of them come true, but you can measure them. You can say, dude, you're good. You got this one right. You got that one wrong. You got this right. You got that one wrong. But when it comes to past lives, there's no way to tell, right? So we'll talk about that when we get back.
I can't wait.
Awesome.
And so We are going to be gone for about 3 minutes. This is a good time to stretch your legs, stand up out of your chair, do a little yoga, and catch us when we come right back.
Talk is our business, and business is good. WGOG Clearwater. Let's talk. There are thousands of health and beauty products on the market these days, but how many can you say are truly natural? The name says it all, and Naturally by Darla is here to humbly serve, guide, and help to heal all individuals seeking a more natural way of living. NaturallyByDarla.com provides a wide variety of products and services like essential oils, soaps, balms and salves, powerful mists, and ancient healing techniques. Curious yet? We thought so, and invite you to visit our website, naturallybydarla.com, or call 847-334-1580. That's 847-334-1580. Naturallybydarla.com. Humbly serving for over 10 years. Naturally.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has delivered a one-of-a-kind reading experience, covering everything from psychics, UFOs, paranormal investigations, and more. To subscribe, visit fatemag.com or call 828-702-3032. That's 828-702-3032. Subscribe and find your true reports of the strange and unknown at fatemag.com.
The Haunted Voices series by author Claire Jim. Not your average romance novels, the Haunted Voices series intertwines romance with ghost stories. Like an addiction counselor and a security guard struggle to free a little girl and her father. Two lost spirits trapped inside an abandoned mental hospital and spirits of the heart. Want more? Then read about a hunky professor in a tweed jacket, a cheeky goth chick, and a pipe-smoking book-hurling ghost. Put them all together in an antiquated library and, well, you get the book Phantom Traces. Or read about a psychic interior designer who reluctantly agrees to renovate a sexy investor's abandoned hotel in Hearts Unlocked, winner of the 2016 New York Book Festival. The Haunted Voices series by Claire Jim. Buy wherever books are sold or purchase at clairejim.com. When it absolutely, positively has to be the best. WGOG DB Clearwater. Let's talk.
23 minutes after the hour, and you are listening to Paranormal Experience, and I am Kat Hobson, your host. I am joined by my friend Andrea Brewer, who just so happens to be the rock and roll psychic, and all-around good guy, reincarnation, past life specialists. Let's see. You do everything. You're an actor. You were in a very popular movie. You've just done a little bit of everything.
I'm sure that Kevin and Manzi would be super excited to know that Paranoid Activity 2 is a very popular movie that will make them so happy.
I think it was.
I read online once that it was the worst movie ever made, but and the woman, I was in this movie with Natasha Blosik, who's doing all this stuff. I mean,
right?
So
really?
That's kind of cool. Yeah, she's in everything now. It's really fascinating.
She is.
Okay, so I have your birthday now. I can't do your full chart because I don't have the time, but we can kind of run through it. So you were born right before, I mean, you were born right at the new moon, right? So there was a new moon the night that you were born. So we can tell, based on where the moon is, it's going to be towards the middle. So we know that your sun's not only in Scorpio, but your moon is in Scorpio. That's significant. You also have almost an exact conjunction of Mercury and Venus. That's going to be important. We're going to talk about that in a second. Your Mars is in Scorpio. Your Jupiter is in Aquarius. You have Saturn in Capricorn, which is where Saturn likes to be. But your Saturn is a 24 Capricorn, so it is square this Mercury-Venus conjunction. We're going to talk about what that means. You have Uranus and Pluto, both in Virgo, and you have Neptune in Scorpio. And if we knew what time you were born, we could say if it's exactly conjunct your moon, it's probably relatively close, but it's not too far from your sun, so that's also significant. Your moon nodes, my Pluto is right on your south node, so that's a karmic connection. There's a bunch of things in your chart that are actually very similar to mine, which is not so super surprising, so we'll be getting along. And you also, looking at this, have a conjunction of your Uranus with the black moon Lilith, which is opposite Chiron. I know people going, speak in English, so I'm going to try to translate that into English. Remember before the break I said that there's an evolutionary pattern to astrology, right? There's a seed pattern. So if your thing is here and your other thing is here and they're 20 degrees apart, we're going to say something happened when you're 20. The example I used was Neptune and Venus 47. And we're going to try to break down the evolutionary process for you to see if there are events that happen in your life and what those events were, and it gives us sort of a blueprint as to what your evolutionary process is going to be like. And also we're going to overlay the past life. So when you look at your chart, if we
Can I
had
ask a question first?
Absolutely.
You just got that date. So
I just got it.
How do you know this stuff? Is it just you carry this in your brain?
No. I'm looking at it. There's a thing called an ephemeris. So no, I don't remember. So
I was fixing to be so knocked out.
Well, yeah. Well, yes. I had a vision. No, it's not. I had a vision, and I went and looked it up. So I know the birthday. So there's a thing called an ephemeris, right?
A what?
An ephemeris. EPHEMERIS. I think is how you spell it. An ephemeris, which is just where all the planets are. It's like they're a zip code. So you have Mars at 25 degrees Scorpio on that day, and
Okay, gotcha.
So no, I didn't just pull these. I'm getting a vision that your Uranus is in Virgo. No, I didn't do it that way.
Well, that's kind of personal anyway.
Yeah, I know, but it's. But if we had the birth time, then we can know the rising sign, and we could put all these things. The birth time makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. And the other thing is when people talk about a quick thing with astrology. So, like, I have an Aquarius sun, but if I would read my horoscope in the newspapers, the way they do those is they do what's called a solar chart. So they assume that my sun, Aquarius, is my rising sign, so they put all the planets in the houses, and that's why they say you're going to have a problem in your home life today because Saturn would be transiting through your fourth house. I mean, that's how they do it. But I have a Gemini ascendant, so for me, Gemini would be much closer to the truth than Aquarius would be. So if you're reading astrology charts and then you're looking for your daily horoscope and you know what your rising sign is, read it with the rising sign and see if that's not closer to the truth sometimes than your actual sun sign. We don't know what your rising sign is because we don't have the time. All right. Now, and I'm sorry that I impressed you and I had to backtrack and say, I just read it, here.
I mean, I was impressed. I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, it's not.
So you've got 3 other birth dates in chat.
Oh, well, it's not, astrology is its own hot mess, but once you get it, so think of astrology like this. I know you're like, well, just get that out of the way and tell me about me, but I'm going to say this real fast. So the way that I teach astrology is I say, imagine that all these planets are 10 people at a cocktail party, right? So they all each planet has their own sort of personality, have their own thing. But then you put them in a specific sign. That's kind of like what they have to wear, and the house position is sort of what's going on. It's, how they're, their home life. And so their natural instincts may be sort of watered down or enhanced. And so they have to get along with everybody else at this cocktail party. Well, certain planets may be right next to each other so they can team up, or based on the personalities, they may just be like clang, clang, clash. Right. And so part of the way that you understand astrology is to think of this cocktail kind of party mentality. And you're looking at all these disparate elements. How do they get along? And what's, they got to come up with a project. How do they get everybody on board to do whatever it is they need to do? All right. Now, the thing that jumps out to me with this chart, again, without really doing the chart, but is that you have all this Scorpio energy. You have Sun and Moon and Neptune. So there's definitely an eighth house kind of energy. The eighth house, Scorpio, deals with mystical things, occult things, so you doing the things you do totally makes sense. A Mercury-Venus conjunction in Libra, and I don't like to do them like cookbook style, but we're going to do it this way anyway for this. Venus is naturally at home in Libra and also in Taurus, your husband's sun sign. And because Mercury and Venus are together in this airy sign of Libra, there's a certain kind of beauty, harmony. So for you to be radio host, writer would be right down your alley if you haven't done that.
I'm working on that, yeah.
With this Mercury-Venus conjunction in Libra like that, you would say that that's actually something that you should probably have a natural instinct for. So we begin to look at, how these things, what are the natural strengths of the person that we're looking at the chart. And then you go, okay, what's the hiccup here? What's the challenge? And in my opinion, the challenge that you have is Saturn and Capricorn, because it forms a very tight square to your Mercury-Venus. So, and it really fits the themes of the things that we've been talking about, for the past hour and a half, which is confidence. So you have this incredibly expansive, beautiful, flowing energy as a communicator. But Saturn and Capricorn, you think, no, I got to do it like step by step. I got to build this box, and I got to put it in the box. Then I got to make sure that the box is measured. So you've been taught to be very controlled, but your energy, your natural out of the gate energy, is to be very expansive. So this expansive, I saw a butterfly and I chased it, which is really where you'd be happiest and where you'd be most productive, is being tempered by this methodical, it needs to fit into a certain kind of thing, right?
Can that be relationship based?
It can be any, because what's going to happen is if this is a core challenge, then you're going to be drawn towards situations that are going to reinforce the core challenge, right? You're going to be drawn, so there's an instinct, you're drawn towards certain kinds of patterns. So the things that you're drawn to, in some sense, are preloaded, but they're also supported throughout your evolution, your childhood development,
right?
Your teen years. So the external is going to match what's going on the internal, right? So your unconscious urges are going to find a way to be expressed in the physical world. You go to where you think you belong, sort of. Does that make sense? Do you follow how
It does, because it's like you're programmed to seek out, like in this case, where my natural instinct is to just ride the wind, then I'm still drawn to where I can find that structure that makes me kind of fall in line societally.
Absolutely. So the question is, this is a chicken and egg, thing. If you are drawn to that, I believe that your natural instinct is to be very free-flowing. Oh, it's a bunny. I think I'll follow the bunny. What a lovely bunny. Okay? To me, that's who you are.
Right. I am that.
And that is being suggested here by this conjunction of Mercury and Venus. But the challenge is going to be that your Saturn is sort of your adult, right? And so your adult part of you, excuse me, says, I need a structure. I can't just go chase the bunny down the road. I need to be doing something productive. I can't just sit here and play Barbies. I need to be cleaning the kitchen. All right, so somebody's taught you that you should be cleaning the kitchen instead of playing with Barbies. And so that impulse is driving your ways of making decisions. And so you're going to be unconsciously, if my theory holds true, unconsciously drawn towards tight structures because it feels right, even though it's perhaps contrary to the most natural expression of this free-flowing energy. Does that make sense?
It feels safe. It
feels right. So safe and right are kind of the same thing, right? So, so to me, that's one of the big themes. Now, as a creative artist, because to me, that creative artist is kind of who you are. Yeah. The creative artist in you wants to blow up the box.
Always.
But you need the box because you've been taught that I'm safe if I have a box. If I go chase the bunny, perhaps there's a giant saber-toothed tiger at the end of the street waiting for the bunny, and it will eat me because it sees me chasing the bunny. That's sort of what's happening here. And so from a karmic standpoint, then you have to say, all right, this is someone who has been gone through some ups and downs in trying to express her creativity. And so once burned, twice shy, there is a history here, I would say, from a past life standpoint, that you have felt that things didn't work so well, and you're a little reluctant to just, put the foot on the floor and go.
Yes.
Again, I hope that makes sense. Now,
it does, and it's true.
So now we have to look at what, and again, we're doing this very high level, what are the evolutionary seeds, what are the events that help drive home the natural instincts that become the clutter that we need to declutter you from or to someone else from as they work towards the highest expression of their natural gifts? To me, your natural gifts are that you're going to be drawn to, Scorpio kinds of things. You're going to be drawn to the occult. You're going to be drawn to ghosts. You're going to be drawn to hidden things. That's going to be your natural. You're going to like it there.
It's my wheelhouse.
You're going to feel like, we're home now. All right. So, but that doesn't fit so easily into box.
Right.
So we have some challenges. And when do we go on a break? I don't want to get,
We go on a break in 7 minutes.
Oh, 7. Okay, cool. We got plenty of time. Plenty of time. All right. Now, your Sun and your Mars are 10 degrees apart. All right. I don't know when your Neptune and your Mars are 14 degrees apart, and I'm inclined to go more with your Neptune than I am with your Sun. Was the age of 14 significant for you?
It was. Yeah.
Because I would think that 14 was like when the bunny and the saber-toothed tiger somehow merged and they attacked you. I would think that 14, if I'm reading this correctly, sucked, kind of, to be honest.
Well, it did.
All right. Now, so when we look at this, why 10's probably significant, but my gut instinct is that 14 is more significant, and 14, and part of this is art, and part of it's science, and part of it is just, well, I just know it. I don't know how to, that I just know it, I guess, is why I'm like whatever, my resume looks like. But a lot of it, but a lot of it really is just sort of like you see it and you add it together. It's not all that. Right. But I'm going to say that 13, 14, 15 was very challenging. Being a 14-year-old girl is a challenge anyway. But I think that yours has an element that's more challenging than the norm.
Yes, that would be true.
Now, that era when you're 14, in my opinion, not only kickstarts your artistic energy, but it also makes you afraid, because the artistic energy makes you happy, and somewhere in when you're 14 is probably not a happy experience, and so happiness and the fear of being too happy and having it taken from you at this stage of your life starts to become more of an issue. True, false,
it starts to become more of a norm.
Well, it becomes something that you become reluctant. I don't want to get my hopes up, because it'll just be the same thing again.
Right.
Now, that's where Saturn rears his head, because after 14, I think that you're going to be more inclined to try to find a safety zone so as to not be disappointed.
Right. But
okay.
It took a while.
All right. Well, yeah, but again, we have to look at what we're trying to do is build, at least for what we're doing right now, look at the evolutionary seed. Where is it planted? Who waters it? And what's the flower that's likely to come out the other end of it?
Okay.
Now, again, so in understanding the emotional foundation and in understanding the concrete challenges that are presented to an individual based on an emotional template, then we can figure out where they may have taken a little bit of a side journey, because in knowing where they went down the side road, we can go, hey, let's go back, go down Main Street, and now it's a straight shot, and now it's over. Now we fix it. Again, I hope that makes sense.
It does.
Now, ultimately, so now we go to the age of 29 and 30. 29 and 30 have to be very significant, I would think. You have a child, get married, something has to happen around 29 or 30, I'm guessing.
Right.
So What happened when you're 29 or 30?
I got divorced from somebody that I really didn't want to.
All right. Well, that's significant. All right. Now, this is also related in some sense to what happens when you're 14. 14 and 29 are connected.
Right.
They're psychologically and emotionally connected. And what is created when you're 14 is expressed in some sense when you're 29. And when you're 29, what's happening is that's reinforcing the fears associated with being 14. So
absolutely.
So we're seeing within the evolution, we're seeing certain kind of 2 minutes. Okay, we're seeing certain challenges, and they become thematic. And so what we're trying to do is understand how to release whatever restriction comes out of that. So you have a situation. It goes back to the very first things we talked about. Am I confident or am I nervous?
Right.
Do I believe in myself or am I afraid to say so? So these two things are two time periods in your life, excuse me, in which you've been given, you've been put in situations that's going to make you reluctant to believe in yourself and reluctant to think happy things can happen. You've had two sad experiences, and those sad experiences are super significant, and they flavor what comes later. That's my theory. Now, how do you feel about what I just said?
I feel like, seriously? I mean, truly, I feel like all of this coming just from the day I was born is...
Well, don't worry about that. I mean, but does it make sense in terms of how do you feel? Not like, oh my God, you're amazing. I don't mean that. I mean, how do you feel about what I'm saying?
I feel like the 14 and 29 connotations tied together are completely accurate. I think that when I was stuck in that time frame, the saber-toothed tiger just kept showing up.
Yeah, for sure.
It never backed off until I got ferocious myself. And that being said, we're up against our break. This is going to be our final break. You got about 2 minutes, and we'll be right back with Andrew as he continues to just knock my socks off here. So, and the people in chat are just overwhelmed. Y'all should be in here reading this, but we'll be back.
We know you listen to other stations, but want to thank you for choosing ours. WGOG Digital Broadcasting. Let's talk. Nothing feels better than a good cleanse to wash away the day. If you think that refreshes you, then experience the ultimate cleanse with Soaps by Susan. Cleansing Spiritually LLC uses only pharmaceutical-grade essential oils, all-natural shea butter, coconut oils, and vitamin E, and tailored toward the ultimate cleanse. Susan uses a skin-safe fragrance with an aroma that brings a smile to your face and takes you to that happy place within. Each bar is handcrafted and custom to order, so it not only cleanses the soul, but also matches your room's decor. Cleansing Spiritually soap makes great gifts, or you can just indulge yourself for a spiritual cleansing you'll never forget. You want some now, don't you? We thought so. Contact Susan Todd to place your custom order at facebook.com/spiritually. Don't settle for clean. Get spiritually clean at facebook.com/spiritually. Marcella Zinner. Named one of the best intuitive psychics of Tampa Bay, Marcella is ready to change your life. Being a clairvoyant since childhood, Marcella enhanced her natural gifts with a master's degree from the College of Metaphysical Studies and ongoing advanced studies at the Edgar Cayce Foundation. Marcella's passion is to share her gifts with you, with intuitive counseling, past life regressions, Reiki, and empowering workshop events. What are you waiting for? Call 727-785-8780. That's 727-785-8780 to schedule your life-changing appointment with Marcella. Marcella Zinner, intuitive counselor and clairvoyant. Find your answers at marcellaz.com. Talk is our business, and business is good. WGOG Clearwater. Let's talk.
And it's such the hour, and you are back with Paranormal Experience, and I'm Kat, your host, and we have my friend Andy Brewer with us tonight. And you know, you asked me how that reading, what you were saying, was making me feel, and I'm going to be honest that I missed the last sentence that I feel was very important. But with what, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you know, you're a naturally expansive type of personality. That's your past life profile. Your past life profile, to me, is one of someone who is used to being a bit of a risk taker, and also someone that has a very social energy. That social energy, that prom queenie kind of energy, is part of who you are. And so that natural, I know what fork to use, you know, let's have a dinner party kind of energy is part of your karma, is part of your past life. It's the lens that you look out at the world from.
Can I tell you something about that?
Yeah, of course.
From the time that I was, I guess, able to sit up in a high chair, 6 months, I was taken out to lunch at a very fine restaurant at least once a month, so that I would be accustomed to being waited on. And when I was 3 or 4 and was taking swimming lessons, my mother taught me to play gin and spades and rummy and stuff so that I could keep her company at the pool when we went to the country club. And so the background started that way. 14 exploded that. It just all got blown to pieces.
So to make this super fast, you have a natural sort of genteel, Scarlett O'Hara kind of energy, right? 14 and 29 are like you're dropped. It's like you're kidnapped and left in a cave, kind of, metaphorically, right. Energetically, emotionally. It's like your world is blown up a little bit. Now, so if your natural instinct is to be a risk taker, is to have this sort of, again, Scarlett O'Hara, I'm just using that as a metaphor, kind of energy.
My mother used to call me Tallulah.
There we go. All right. So, there's a certain kind of energy I have, certain kind of energy that, just shows up. So what is the advantage of having 14 and 29 today? This is the only thing that matters. 14 and 29 have their own challenges. Now what we have to do is reframe it. We got like 5 minutes to do this. Reframe it.
No pressure.
I'm going to do it. So reframe it so that it's something that's useful. So if we take the past life profile, we take the natural instincts, we look at these as challenges, the ways in which you got through those challenges, what you had to do to go from Tallulah Bankhead to whatever you had to be to get through this, you take the natural instinct, you subtract the experience, what you have left is your karma. So you take a child, when you look at a baby has a certain kind of thing as their natural, optimal life. Baby, you can see in the baby photo. Then you look at the person, they're 30, 40, whatever, you go, well, you ain't that. The difference is their karma. The difference is their challenge. So you've had challenges, but your natural state of being is to be Tallulah Bankhead, Scarlett O'Hara, creative artist. You are going to move back into that. I think you have to write. My advice, my prediction is that writing is really the ultimate end game for you. So what you've experienced and the ways in which it has modified your outlook on the world, the thing you have to write about is really how you went from being a 14-year-old and having those experiences, those challenges, those, you've had some kind of invasive kinds of things happen to you when you're 14.
Yes.
So if you go through someone invading your space, disrupting your world, how you get back to where you feel safe, and how you get back to chasing bunnies down the street, and how you get back to being Tallulah Bankhead again, the way that you go back to it is really the way in which you've met the challenges of your particular life, and it's also the gift that you bring once you fully understand and appreciate it. So for you, having had those experiences, having moved through those experiences, having now a frame of reference about what you're like, what you had to do to get back into your natural sort of effusive, flamboyant kind of self, how you do that. That's something there are other people who are in that process who have not moved through that process. You can help them, and that's what you'll do when you grow up. So my prediction is, and I've still got a minute left, my prediction is that what you're going to do then is you're going to take the experiences of 14 and 29, you're going to reassemble them, and you're going to look at how whatever you did to move past them is something that could be useful for someone else. You're going to write a book about it. You're going to write something down about it. And that's going to be what comes next. And that's what I think. Now,
I've already started that.
There we go. So you're making me look good.
I'm struggling, though, because it's so...
We're going to fix that. I've got like 15 seconds to fix it. Here's the thing. And I don't mean to cut you off, but we're in
No, you go, guy.
Remember what I said about when you start to have a vision in your head that somebody's not going to they're not going to appreciate what you have to say, and you start to edit yourself, right? You're doing that. That's your Saturn. That's the box.
I hate boxes.
Okay, well, we're going to get it. You need to literally, when I talk about you being an out-of-the-box thinker, we're going to take that metaphor to a new extreme. It's important for you to not listen to the voices. This come from when you're 12, 13, somebody in your family tree that's planted this idea in your head about what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to be seen and not heard. You need to tune them out. And once you do that and say, it is about me being heard, I'm going to find a way to say it. And that lady that told you that thing, that psychic, you need to tune her out too, and anybody else like her. Allow yourself to express from a position of exploration. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to have everything done. You don't have to all fit in a nice, neat bow. But you have to allow yourself the opportunity to express. And if you do that, then it'll go fast. That's my speech. Now, normally I'd be a little more, drawn out with this, but we're in a time crunch.
You got 4 minutes.
But I mean, that's what I think. So now, how do you feel about that?
I feel like I already know that I'm supposed to write about that. I started writing a book about something entirely different, and I couldn't because this kept coming up. And it's a completely... I was writing a book about paranormal things, and I couldn't. And this kept coming up. I was trying to write it, and it was just... It's very graphic and personal, and trying to share how to overcome that was a little intimidating too, because I'm like, well, I didn't survive it well at first, and I still get stuck in the box because it's safe and I don't have to, I have a very comfortable box that my Taurus has created for me to protect me.
But not everybody has that, and the thing is...
No, they don't.
And not everyone can from the same sort of parallel history, can accept a box and be comfortable in it. That also is part of your formula. How do you move from that and be willing to accept help? That's an important piece.
Well, it is an important piece because you can't do it at first because you don't trust that help. You don't trust that somebody wants to help you.
So that's your book. That's your book. If you think about it.
I'm making a note. But you're right. Because how many people stay locked in that because they can't accept someone caring enough to want to provide safety? Or even providing their own, because I was very stringent about providing my own before I would accept someone else's.
Which is understandable. You've been someplace, you know the street, you can express it to someone else. That's your book.
There you go. Well, thank you very much. When I'm selling my first 1,000 copies, I'm going to send you the first one.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So, but, we are so out of time, and all these other people so wanted you to do their reading, and I I appreciate you doing mine. And
you're very welcome.
I appreciate you being here because, I like you so much. And we are very karmically connected. And we didn't even get to the Akashic Records. You have to come back.
Oh, thank you. It's been fun. I really have enjoyed it. Thanks for inviting me. Happy New Year, everybody. And
I didn't even tell people Happy New Year. Happy New Year. So, and thank you so much. And I do want to let people know that next week my guest is going to be my friend Frank Lee, who is the founder and lead investigator for Casper Paranormal, and he is the best host of a YouTube show on the planet. And Andrew, I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. We'll see you later.
Absolutely. And everyone, we will be back next week. Same cat time, same cat channel. Have a great week. Good night.